Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So we're starting chapter 2 today of Tanya. And chapter 2 is starting to explain the nefesh ha'elokis, the divine soul, which is what we're going to learn about today. We touched on it previously. But today we're going to elaborate and to get into it a little bit more. So we will begin with the text of the Tanya. In English, I have it here, and I'll read in Hebrew. I don't have the text here in Hebrew. But I'll read in Hebrew and translate in English. And then we will get into a little bit more discussion of it. So, and as an introduction, interestingly enough, the Alter Rebbe chose to explain first and to elaborate first on the animal soul, at least introduce the concept of the nefesh habehamit, of the animal soul, at the end of chapter 1, where he speaks about, when he introduces the concept of the two souls. So he starts with the animal soul, and then he refers to the divine soul, to the nefesh ha'elokis, as nefesh hashenis, as the second soul. The question is why? Shouldn't the divine soul, the nefesh ha'elokis, be the primary soul? That's our primary soul. So why is it the second soul? So there is two explanations to it. One is the truth is it's one explanation, but we'll divide it into two. One is he's talking first about what is closest to us, human beings. And as the expression and the example I gave in the last few classes, that a child being born, a baby being born, they do not cry for a book of Tanya. They don't ask for a book of Tanya, but the child being born, they're crying for food, asking for a toy. That's what bothers a child. And as the child grows up, there is another chair here. Unless we want to bring a few more chairs a few red chairs, so more people come. When the child grows up, the child is asking hopefully, for Tanya and for more meaningful, for something more spiritual, for something more godly. So the closest soul to us, in a practical level, is the animal soul. At the same time, why? Because the animal soul is the soul that gives life. Thank you. The primary soul is what gives life, and which that's what we are. Then we need to reach in and to realize that we have the divine soul. On the surface, we don't see the divine soul. We don't see the nefesh ha'elokit. We don't see the godly soul. On the surface, what we see is the animal soul. That's why it's nefesh hashenit. That's why it's the second soul. Also, and that's why the Alter Rebbe starts with the animal soul, because this is our avodah, the purpose of creation is to work with our animal soul, is to refine our animal soul. is to make our animal soul realize and recognize godliness. So most of Tanya will actually be speaking about the animal soul, with the help of the divine soul. Also, when a child is born, while we have the divine soul in us, at the same time it comes in within stages. It's not there fully. The animal soul is there fully right away. The divine soul comes in stages: the brit by a boy, circumcision, the naming, giving a Jewish name to a girl by the Sefer Torah, the bas mitzvah and bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah by a girl at the age of 12, bar mitzvah by the boy at the age of 13. There is even, to a certain extent, a divine soul does not go, is ultimately coming into a person by the age of 20, which is not something that is very known, but there is that milestone as well. So it comes in stages. But the animal soul is there since day one, and that's why King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech, refers to the animal soul as Melech Zaken Uchsil, as the king who is senior and silly and a fool, the Yetzer Hara. Why? Because our animal soul, our Yetzer Hara, has seniority. Is the oldest soul in our body. It's there since day one in its fullest. So it's the senior king who is looking for kingdom to take over our life and our body. The divine soul is Kinar Yisrael va'ohavehu, is the child in comparison to the senior, coming in at a later stage. And that's why, by nature, we are attracted more to doing animal things, animalistic things, natural things, rather than godly things. So Nefesh Hashenit, we could follow in English on the top of the page that was handed out. V'nefesh Hashenis b'Yisrael, the second soul by a Jew, Hichelek eleka mimal mamesh, is part of God, coming from above, of God above, mamesh, in a real way. It's really part of God. Chmei shekasuv, as it is written in the Torah, with creation of man, when God created Adam, Vayipach be'apov nishmas chayim, God breathed in Adam a soul of life. He blew, like blowing up a balloon. He blew in his nose a nishmas chayim, a soul of life. That's how the Torah describes creation of the first human being on earth, Adam Arishain, Adam. And then we say every morning, in the morning blessings, in the fourth prayer in the Siddur, in the prayer book, and the third blessing that we say in the morning, first is Modeh Ani, that we say as soon as we wake up. Then after washing the hands, rinsing the mouth, and getting ready, we say the Birchot HaShachar, the morning blessings. So the third blessing is Elokai Neshama Shenatata Big, my God, the soul that you have given in me. You have created it, Ve'ato Nofachta Bi, and you have breathed it in me. So not only did God create the soul, but He breathed the soul in Adam. And the Zohar elaborates. The Zohar, one of the original books of Kabbalah, written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He's saying it, he's explaining it and elaborating. Man de nofach miteichei nofach. One who is blowing, he blows from himself, from his depth. Speaking, saying a word, is also a breath from our neshama, from our soul. But it's on the surface. And that's why when we speak, we don't get as tired as when we blow. Blowing is much more tiring than speaking. Why? Because blowing comes from the essence of our soul, from our deep breath. It's from our depth. Pirush mitech yusei umipnimi, from his inside, from his depth. Shetechius upnimius achayus shebaodom, because the depth and the internal and the innermost vitality of a person, meitzi bin fichose bekeach, when he takes it out when he blows hard. This is the first few lines of chapter 2, describing what is the soul, what is the divine soul. Now we'll elaborate on it a little bit. And we'll have time for questions and answers as well. Or suggested answers. Or questions and discussion as well. So, God created the world. How did God create the world? By saying.
Yeah,
He spoke into existence. Vayomer Elokim yehi or, vayhi or. God said, let there be light, and there was light. So he spoke. He said. You know, today there are tools, speech to text. You speak and it types for you. God spoke, and not only did it type for him, but it actually created it. Speech to action. Is the technology already there?
Not yet.
In my household, that miracle didn't happen yet. That I say something and then it happens automatically. Sometimes after saying it 10 times, maybe someone listens. And in my community also it didn't happen yet, that miracle. But Hashem said, and it happened. Speech into action. That's how He created everything. When it comes to creation of man, the Torah describes something differently. The Torah describes two actions that took place. How did He create the body of the human being, of Adam?
From the dust of the...
With His hands. He didn't say, let the earth give out a body of a human being. That's what He did with the animals. That's what He did with sea life. Let the earth give out a soul of life. Totzeh haaretz nefesh chaya. So He created with His speech a body and soul of the animal. But the human being, He created with His hand the body. And the Torah goes in details that He actually formed it, that He actually took earth and formed it into a body. He had a shop where he created an actual body, or a lab. It sounds a little better, more not as gross. And so He had a lab where He created a body. Now he has a body that is dead, that doesn't have any life to it. He performed CPR and gave it life. That's what the Torah describes. So 2 actions in the creation of the human being. Why? And before why, what? That means that our body, that the body of Adam Arishain that God has created in the world, is not the same body as a monkey. Because a monkey is an animal. Okay, let's leave the monkey aside. Not the same body as a dog. It's a different body. It's a different body. It's a different make. It's a different ingredients. Was created in a different way. So it's not that God took a body of an animal, of a dog, of a cat, of a bird, and he blew into it a soul of life, and that makes a human being. No, the body is a different creation, and the soul is a different creation. Now, let's put I wanted to make a table of it, but didn't have time. But let's put the 3 tools of creation into a scale. We have 3 tools of creation: speech, hands, and breath. Which is more spiritual, more the essence of God? Or let's talk about a human being. Between speech, breath, and action, which is more physical, more exterior to me, and which is more deeply me?
Breath is the deepest.
Breath is the deepest. And which is the most?
Hands is the most physical.
Hands. Most physical, most tangible, most exterior. Right?
Right.
The hand is not as deep as my breath of speech.
Well, see, I don't think of it. I think of it more as an artist studio rather than a lab. So if God fashions me with His hands, it can be something that comes from the divine. It comes from the divine soul anyway.
So I'm not an artist, so I cannot argue. But if let me put on a hat of an artist for a second, if I may, and ask you a question: which is a bigger art? If you form something unbelievable by speech, or you form something unbelievable by your hands? For which art would you pay more? Which would be more expensive? Which one would we be able to make a bigger buck for an art sale for Chabad?
It could be either, because there are some artists who use speech and others who use their hands, right? Like a musician, a singer, uses speech.
That's art that ends in singing. But my question is to build the ultimate building of the Chabad house, and all with the ultimate campus, to build it by speech or to build it with the hands. Which is a bigger art? You are talking about the art that is the end result is speech, singing, speaking, which is speech. And the other art, which is the end result, something tangible.
Right.
We're talking about the end result being something tangible, the human being, the animal. Both are an amazing art of God. I mean, it's an amazing art to create the human body or the animal body. It's an amazing art. But one was created by speech and one was created by hands. The hands is more on the surface. The speech is more internal. So breath, speech, and hands. That's what we have in creation. All of creation was created by speech. The human being, Adam HaRishon, was created by two extremes. The body by the most external, most physical, most tangible, the ma'aseh, the action, which is exterior than me, and at the same time, the soul with the breath of God, two opposites. This is who we are. That's what the Alter Rebbe says, "V'nefesh hashenis b'Yisrael, hi chelek Elokam imal mamesh." That the second soul by a Jew is part of God, mamesh. The word mamesh means really, really part of God. The word really is explained in two ways. One is that it's really godly, and I'll elaborate on it soon. The second explanation is that it's real. It's touching the reality, the tangible, the physical body. Those are the two opposites in our lives. Godly and reality, and real. Something that is not beyond us. It's touching the real world. The lowest of lowest. What God has created with His hands, not even with His speech. Okay? So this leads us to, on the one hand, the realization, and I'll elaborate on what was just said, but the realization of two extremes that on the one hand is very uplifting and very, wow, we're godly, and on the other hand, we're worse, lower than any other creation in the world and creature in the world, even a fly, a mosquito. Because a fly and a mosquito were created by the speech of God, by God saying, closer to God, we are action of God. Exterior. Which is very depressing of how low we are. And why am I saying it's depressing? The Talmud says that when a person performs a sin, goes against God's will, the Talmud makes a statement, and the Alter Rebbe elaborates on it later in Tanya, Yitush kadmach. You need to realize that a mosquito and a fly, I'm not sure what the translation of the word yitush is, if it's a fly or a mosquito, that's why I say both. What? It's a mosquito actually? Okay. How do you say zvuv? Yes, you're right. A fly is zvuv. So a mosquito has come before you. What does that mean? That the animal is better than you. In other words, the only right to exist that we have is when we apply the godly soul in our lives. Otherwise, Who are we to take control over the world and to use the world and to throw away a mosquito from my life, from my surrounding? Why am I better than the mosquito? Who am I to hit the mosquito? Go away. Why am I better than the mosquito? The mosquito is a creation of God, better than me. The only right I have to use a mosquito in a positive way or in a negative way, to use anything in the world, is if I use the highest part that God has implanted in me, the godly soul. If I perform a sin and I don't use the godly soul, then the mosquito should have control over me. Then the cat, then anything in the world should control me, not me controlling the world. There is a Hasidic saying brought in the Hayom Yom, a calendar that the Rebbe has written with a teaching, with a thought for every day. I don't remember which day, but one of the days the Rebbe brings the Hasidic saying that says the following: if we walk on the ground, on a stone, on a floor, and if we walk, and we do not think words of Torah while walking on that stone, then the stone yells out to me and says, Bulach. It's Russian? Bulach? It is Russian? What does Bulach mean? Maybe it's Yiddish. I don't know if it's Russian. What is Bulach? Idiot. Idiot. Bulach.
He wasn't talking about that.
It's probably Yiddish. It's probably Yiddish. Bulach means idiot, silly, fool. Why are you better than me? Why are you stepping on me? A stone yells out and saying, you're not better than me. Why? We take it for granted that we use everything in the world to our benefit. Why? Who gives you permission to do it? We're sitting on a chair now, and please remain everyone sitting, don't get up, because you can't be in the air. So whatever we do, we'll and now it's okay to sit on the chair. We sit on the chair. You could imagine someone sitting on you for an hour, for a minute, and enjoying themselves and moving, and making ourselves comfortable. Let me, Schneer, can I try? Sitting on someone, and making ourselves comfortable. Why am I better than this piece? Why am I hurting this chair? The chair also has a certain life. Why am I better than the chair? Why am I moving it to my liking, for my needs? Did I ask permission? Chair, excuse me, can I use you? Can I move you? Why? Who gives us permission? The only thing that gives us permission is the godly soul. That's what God gave us and tells us, since you now have the godly soul, you not only you can, but you should use everything in the world is in your control. Pruvu, be fruitful and multiply, umil'u et haaretz, and fill the earth, v'chifshu, and conquer it. Everything. Conquer the world to the purpose that I have created you with the godly soul. Otherwise, you have no right to exist. Excuse me. So, why are we created with speech and the lowest than every other thing in the world? For a very simple reason. I could pick up this cup from here, but it's dangerous because it could fall. Certain things I can't pick up from the top. if I'll try to pick up this book from the top, just by holding on to the paper, chances are it will tear and it will fall and I will not have a grasp on it. Impossible to pick up this table from the top. I need to take it from the bottom. And this is why God has created the human body and human soul as the highest of the highest and the lowest of the lowest. Because we are meant to be that lift that goes down to the bottom and elevates all the way to the top. So we need to be able to be on the bottom in order to be able to reach the top. That's our body. There is another side to the story about the human body and about creation of our body with the hands of God. And now I'll address your hesitation earlier, which is action. There is more involvement than speech.
I see it more as God.
Hands-on.
It's something very loving that He's doing. Because it's more intimate.
More intimate and more hands-on.
Yes.
There is the two sides of it. And I know that I saw that it bothers you. And thank you for your patience. So there is that also. And actually our sages speak about it, and it's throughout there is a lot about it. Maaseh yadai lehitpa'er. The action of my hands will bring me pride. So there is the action of God, and that's the human body created with His hands, more individual attention. So there is the two sides of it. It doesn't take away from the fact that action is on the surface, and speech is more internal. But I'm just mentioning it to address, yes, there is that too. And this is where God gives us the ability of being able to handle all the challenges in the world and lifting up everything around us and everyone around us, as difficult as it might be, as challenging as it might be, as impossible as it might seem. I cannot even handle my next 5 minutes in life. I can't control myself. God is saying you can't control yourself. I created you with my own hands. And I gave you the best of the best. My soul, which is part of me, and my actions, which is part of me also. I formed you. Not only on the surface. And we could elaborate on these both issues, but on these both aspects of action versus speech. But we'll leave it for another time. We're just touching upon this on the surface. One more point. When we're saying that the soul, that the divine soul, the nefesh ha'elokit, is godly. In English, there is two concepts: godlike and godly. And many times it's confusing. And are we meant to be godly, or are we meant to be godlike? What is the difference between both of them?
Godlike is me, and godly is for God.
Is Him.
Is Him.
So are we godly or are we godlike?
I think we're supposed to be godly.
We're supposed to be godly?
In action, exactly. Actions that are actually for the sake of God, actions that are pure, holy.
So we're supposed to be godly or we're supposed to be godlike?
We're supposed to be Godly.
We're supposed to be godly. How do we make ourselves godly?
Through action,
Through action?
speech, action.
How?
How he would want us to be and how he is. He wants us to be in the image of God, right?
Yeah.
So the way he would have done something, he wants us to be following that way, in that particular path. That's what.
So, in the image of God, did God make us godly or did He make us godlike?
God-like.
He made us godlike
Like to be godly.
to be godly.
It's both interconnected. That's what I think.
Is that what everyone says here?
I may be wrong.
I
No.
think godlike is be like God. We cannot
But
be
we are not
like
God.
God. We're supposed to act in a way that God wants us, which is godly.
But God created us as
We're created in His
It's
image.
not-
That
yes.
means somehow we have some of His characteristics.
so inside you, so
Like-
not outside. Inside, we need to be like Him.
Wait, why are you asking the questions? Aren't we supposed to ask the questions?
Yeah,
But
you should be
to
the one
godlike,
answering.
It's like to start playing God all of a sudden and making decisions on behalf of God. We have no right. That's where all the trouble starts, when people start acting like God, and that's where we're supposed to ask ourselves, who am I? I'm not a God to make those decisions.
But
to act
some people
in a
think that
manner
they are
God
God.
told us to do. That's a godly.
But I think Avril is asking a good question. So some people think, so acting like God is dangerous,
Yes.
and acting as God Himself, godly, that's not dangerous?
No, because it's doing mitzvah, it's being charitable.
Why is doing a mitzvah godly? More than godlike.
Because God told us so.
So that's godlike.
It's both. It's a godly action and it follows the godly.
It's a godly action, but am I godly? God, it's a godly action to light Shabbos candles. It's a godly action to. It's a godly action to eat matzah on Pesach. So when I eat matzah on Pesach, am I godly or am I godlike?
Godly.
Why?
Because you're.
And if I don't eat matzah on Pesach, am I godly or am I not? Am I not godly?
So, what's the definition of godly and what's the definition of godlike?
That's the question.
Right, so God,
And I'm asking you for a change.
What does it mean when it says that we're made in His image? What does that mean?
What does it mean? A good question.
godlike is probably you're like God. That's pretty much what it's. I mean, what the words intend saying. But godly is like being God. Godly, or for example, godly as in holiness. It's holy. So when you think about what's holy and what is like God, in my opinion, I think they're the exact same thing.
So may I suggest the following? That's exactly what we're learning here, and there is a statement in the Torah, a mitzvah. One of the 613 mitzvot, commandments in the Torah, is uledov kavo, to glue to God, glue, to get attached to God. The Talmud is asking a question: how? How do I do that? How can I glue to God?
דבק נגרים.
He spoke in French.
Oh, okay.
Glue.
He said which glue to use. Crazy glue, carbonated glue, crazy glue. He just put in, yes. He wanted to tell us that he's listening. So the Talmud says, Hidavek bidrachav, lidamot bidrachav. The Maimonides repeats it a number of times, that we need to imitate him in his ways. So as an example, it says, God puts on tefillin, we need to put on tefillin. God keeps Shabbos, we need to give Shabbos. God gomer chasadim, offers acts of kindness, we need to be kind. Is that godly or godlike? Godlike. Be like him. Be like him. Okay? So, to be godlike, do we have a choice or we don't?
Yes.
Yes. To be godlike, we have a choice. Either I behave like Hashem, or I don't behave like Hashem. If I do a mitzvah, I behave like Hashem. Then I'm godlike. If I don't, then I'm not godlike. Then I'm animal-like. Right? To be godly, I cannot be what I'm not. I could jump. I cannot be what I'm not. Jump to the roof. If you're not, you can't. Can I be an angel? Can I be an animal? I can't. Can I be a woman? No. Sorry, here everyone's quiet. I'm sorry, it's not what I meant. I didn't need to go there. I can't. I can't. As long as I'm not a woman, I can't. Can I change? This is a different question. Let's not for now. But as long as I'm not, I can't. I can't be who I'm not. Can a child be an adult? No.
If he waits for a few years.
Yeah, exactly, but now I can't. I cannot be godly if I'm not godly. So who made me godly? Neshama shenasato bi, the soul that you've put in me. Ato nefachto bi, you blew it in me, you breathed it in me, you put it in me, so I'm godly. So we are a Am Kadosh. God made us the holy nation. I don't practice. I don't even know that I'm Jewish. I don't even know that the Jewish people exist. But I am part of that nation. Am I holy? Am I acting holy? No. Am I godlike? No. Not necessarily, I'll say, to be more exact. But am I godly? Of course. I am godly. I can't help it. When I don't act godly, then what happens is I hide, I cover. The godliness within me is concealed and is in exile and is in jail, and I'm acting like an animal. That's why we tell ourselves, stop behaving like an animal and behave like a mensch. That's behaving godly or behaving not godly. That's godlike or not godlike. That's the behaving. But being godly or not being godly is not within our choice. Yes.
Excuse me. So, when we look at the holy nation, the Jewish people, and do we have an elevated soul, and that's why we're godly, or does all nations have the godly soul that can be the same?
So you are asking a question: is the godly soul that we're talking about here, is that unique to the Jew, or is that by all of the nations?
I'm asking, is there an elevated version for Jewish people? Because I understand that we all have the divine soul.
It's not the same soul.
It's not the same soul.
No, it's not the same soul. No, the Jewish soul is not the same soul that everyone else has. It's not. Not taking away anything from anyone, but it's not the same soul. What happens when a not-Jewish person converts to Judaism, goes through the process of conversion, the Jewish soul gets in to the person when the person converts. When the person becomes Jewish. So that's That's the Jewish soul. That doesn't mean, God forbid, that non-Jews don't have a godly soul and that they're not created in the image of God. When it says that the Tzelem Elokim, that we are created in the image of God, the Rambam says that this is referring to every human being. Every human being is created in the image of God. It's a different godly soul. The Nefesh Hashenis B'Yisrael, the godly soul that we're talking about here, the Ve'ato Nefachto Bi, is unique to the Jewish people. That's why we have a responsibility that no one else has, which is eating matzah the night of Pesach, putting on tefillin, keeping Shabbos, lighting Shabbos candles, saying a bracha before eating, unique to the Jewish people. That's the unique mission that God has given to the Jewish people as a people, with the giving of the Torah.
Can you push away your Jewish soul? Is that possible?
The exact same way that you could push away your existence. Could you?
We'll find out.
You can't.
No, you can't. You can't.
Well, you can push you away your existence. Of course you can.
How could you?
Suicide.
No. You can't push away.
Talking about the soul now, or
If both, when one commits suicide, or when one passes away, all one does is separates the body and soul. But one cannot take away the existence of the body and the existence of the soul. Mm-hmm. Can I become a different body than God has created me?
no.
Can I become unassociated with my father and my mother who have brought me to this world?
Yes.
No.
Unassociated? What do you
Well,
mean? Oh.
of
Okay.
course, I could choose not to be
Yeah.
part of that family.
But you'll always be related. You can't
I'm
change.
always part of them. I always have their genes.
Right.
It's my unique father and my mother who brought me to this world, not someone else. It's not possible. I cannot take that away, that fact. I cannot take away that holiness that God has put in me, in my body and in my soul. I cannot take that away. I cannot become an animal. At least not as of today. I don't think there are human beings who became animals. No, act like animals. I don't think science came up yet with changing the gender of human beings to animals, or animals to human beings. I don't know.
If you ask
Maybe it will happen.
If you ask Darwin, he has a different opinion.
I didn't ask him. I know who to ask questions. To Shmuel, I ask questions. So I can't. No, it's not possible.
Actually think that
So can a Jew become a non-Jew? Impossible. Impossible. It's not possible. I cannot take away the fact of who I am. Nothing in the world could change except per the wish of God. Can this paper change its entity and whatever it is, and become not paper? Impossible. Whatever you'll change it into, make food from this, make a powder that will be nutritional, whatever it is, it's changing the format. But it's still what it is. You cannot take it away. That's what the divine soul is. So, and let me elaborate on it for a minute. It's not putting anyone down. And we could I gave classes on this topic years before. God forbid, it's not putting anyone down. A child who is not bar mitzvah yet is less Jewish and holy than after bar mitzvah? No.
No.
It's a different kind of holiness. Part of the divine soul is not there completely. I don't know exactly how to define it. I don't know how God blows into me the soul when. I didn't feel it. I don't feel it. I don't know the difference between I was 12 years old and 364 days, and what happened to me when I turned 13. And Mazel Tov on the bar mitzvah of your boy tonight, who is turning 13. Many years of nachas. So tonight you'll see in him suddenly a new soul. You'll see when God comes and blows into him a soul. No, you won't see it. Maybe you will. I won't. And I won't be there tomorrow morning. I apologize. I'm going out of town for a few days. So I will not see it for sure not. I'll be back Tuesday night, so I won't be there tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning he's getting the first aliyah at the age of when he's turning 13. Mazel tov, lots of nachas. We don't see. I don't know exactly how to describe it. But it's a different make.
Made in China.
We had we met this morning. I met for the first time. What is her name? Dasha. Yes, I remember because we discussed yesterday her name. Where is the name Dasha come from?
Yes, yeah.
I think, me and Rachel think that it's coming from the name Hadassah, which turned into Dasi, and the Dasi turned into Dasha. So I think it comes from Hadassah, but I might be wrong. But I don't know. Maybe there is a name Dasha separately, but I think that's what it is. So here is a beautiful Jewish girl, Dasha. She's a wonderful girl. Is she a Virin?
Is she what?
Is she a part of the Virin family? No. And neither it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. We don't know. Are you certain it's going to happen? You're praying that if it's the right thing, that if it's the right match, it should happen. Amen. I pray for that too. And I'll add a prayer, it should happen quickly. If it's the right thing. That's what you want also. Yes. I don't know if Lev, but you for sure want it. But meanwhile, she's a wonderful girl. Your boy is a wonderful boy. Two separate entities, but they're not the same family. Nothing wrong with either one of them. Nothing wrong with either one of them. Once they will become the same family, it will be a new entity. So it's not the fact a child before the bris, a boy before he had a circumcision, is as holy as a Jew as after the circumcision. At the same time, it's not the same holiness. It's not the same holiness. So the same thing is the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew and the different nations and so on. There is differences in what God has created. The godly soul. There is a godly soul by every human being. In every non-Jew, as we said, everyone is created in the image of God. At the same time, and everything that we're learning here could apply to every individual wherever they are, at whichever level of godliness that one has. But we cannot confuse and say it's the same. Any quick questions? Yes, time flies when you have fun, I guess. We didn't go through this, but next week we'll elaborate on it more, obviously. But if anyone has a quick question or what, we could elaborate on it. We could address it a little bit. Otherwise, we'll continue next week. Yes?
Yeah, I just have a question. When the soul was breathed into Adam, was it just the godly or was the animal soul breathed as well at the same time?
So I sent a question to one of my brothers, asking him, Briat nefesh ha'elokit al yedei vayipach be'apav. The creation of the divine soul is through God breathing in the soul. Briat nefesh ha'bahamit. The creation of the animal soul, question mark. So he answered me something, and I said, yes, I understand it, I know that. He brought me some sources about the creation of the divine soul, but I asked him, but so how was the animal soul created? How was the natural soul created by Adam HaRishon? How was the living soul created by Adam HaRishon, which is all part of the animal soul as we learned last week? He answered me a question mark. So I asked him, what is the question mark? You don't know, or you're telling me you don't understand what I'm asking? And that's where it's standing. So I don't have his answer yet. So it's still in discussion. At the same time, according to this table, which was put together by JLI, when there was a course about soul maps a few years ago that Rabbi Groner, we offered a class here. Here it says that the animal soul is created with speech, and the godly soul is part of God, which is created with breath. So I'll spell out the question. So does that mean that God has created the human being Adam HaRishon, and Adam HaRishon was breathing, and then he blew into him the divine soul? Or did it happen simultaneously? And what happens by us? Are we created first with the animal soul, and then God blows in the godly soul, and in stages? A little blow at birth, another blow at the giving of the name by a girl, by the breeze by a boy, another blow at the bar bas mitzvah. How exactly does it happen? What is the answer? Question mark. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure that it's being discussed. And maybe I knew a little bit on it at this point. I don't remember. I don't, and it's something to be looked into it a little more. And by all means, everyone is encouraged to do research and to listen to more classes on Tanya online by others on chapter 2. And if you come across something, please, by all means, share it with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again,